Hello, my fellow chatterers and book lovers. Whilst you're waiting for the winner of the Middlegrade Readers' Choice Awards 2024 to be announced, I'm going to talk to you about the cover art for the shortlist. I'm going to give you an audio description of all of the book covers in case you are just hearing the audio and can't see the visuals, and I'm going to rank them. I'm going to go from 10 to being my least favourite to 1 being my favourite of the book covers. This is not me ranking my books or preference or anything like that, but this is what I think of the covers and the art, and the artists of these are amazing. Honestly, I've been going through like people's Instagrams and websites and just seeing the artwork, and they're just phenomenal. Please look in the description box for the links to the websites of the artists for these book covers. So I will do my best to describe it for you, and I will give you my reasons as to why I have placed them in the order that I have. Things I'm taking into consideration for this are, is this an eye-catching cover? Does it kind of really draw your eye? What pulls you into this book? What is intriguing? Those kind of things. I'm also going to be looking at what my opinion is of how the layout looks, the design, the placement, the font. I'm going to give you all my thoughts on those. And I'm also going to be looking at the artwork, like what styles speak to me? What do I think of the talent that has gone into creating this? First up, we have Gut Reactions book cover. So this, I think, is the only one that I couldn't find the artwork source for. So the illustration itself, I think, is really lovely. So colour palette, we have got sort of a lilac into a sky blue. It sort of like fades in like an ombre. And we have a white sort of going from the top all the way down to the bottom, sort of like squiggly intestine sausage wiggle. And we have the title within that intestine in sort of like purple swirly letters, Gut Reaction. I appreciate how that reflects the theme of the book. And then you also have a porcupine in in sort of the bottom part of this. And you have the characters. So we have our protagonists in a red backpack, purple jacket and blue jeans. She's got short black hair, and she looks like she's sort of like trudging off to school on a bit of a mission. Within the background of the purple to blue, we have lots of different baked goods done in a sort of a white outline. Colour is absolutely perfectly fine. It does capture the story. Just compared to some of the other ones, I don't think it's as striking. I think it's possibly because there is the wiggle is all in white, and the pictures are only small. It's a porcupine and a girl, and there's just kind of a lot of space around it, so it doesn't quite pull me in. I do appreciate that they've used kind of the idea of the gut, and I like how the title is within the gut and the authors are in there, but it's just not that striking compared to the others, and doesn't pull me in, so that's why it's in 10th place. In 9th place, we have Skander and the Chaos Trials. There are 2 different accreditations for this one. So it was designed by Tom Sanderson, and it was created by 2 Dots Creative. So I think they've, I think it's sort of like a company that sort of specialises in more kind of like action, sort of more can't say the words, like cinematic, like photography style. So I did originally place Skander a little bit higher because it is very striking. It's a bright yellow cover. It kind of goes sort of like the top and the bottom have got like a darker sort of like burnt yellow that then fades into sort of like a yellowy orange, and then it's got bright yellow in the middle. We've got lots of electricity around it coming from the centre. The centre is taken up by the unicorns. We've got a very dark sort of like blackish blue unicorn. So it's unicorn / Pegasus. It's got like wings out. On the back, I presume we have Skander, who is holding a sort of like lightning fork trident and is astride the unicorn. We have a second unicorn that is more of a browny white colour. And I think there's another figure on top of that. I think it's female, but I'm not entirely sure. And we've got Skander and the Chaos Trials in big letters at the top of that. And we've got Skander has got a little bit of a unicorn horn coming off the K, and the N has got a little bit of like electricity coming off it. And so because like your eye immediately goes to the main figure in the centre surrounded by white light on top of the unicorn. So it's very striking. It really does pull you in. But the art style is not my favourite. Like when I've gone in closer, it has felt the cinematic style is not my art style. I'm not a fan of those kind of like film-esque covers. I prefer much more ones that look like it's supposed to be a painting or a cartoon, and it's a bit more stylistic. So when I kind of zoomed in more, I did actually drop it down, even though I do think it's a lot more striking and eye-catching than some of the ones that I have placed higher to it. So number 8 is kind of the opposite of what I've just spoken about. Number 8, I have put the Last Hope School for Magical Delinquents. And that is because I really like the artwork, but it's just not that eye-catching. So we have sort of like stairs. So across the middle section of the book is like this sort of rail for like a veranda, possibly, with stairs sort of leading down. On either side of the veranda, you've got it's kind of hard to, possibly windows. It's like sort of building works. And then in the middle, you've got this rectangle. It sort of looks a little bit like a doorway, but it's like pink into sort of pale pink into sort of yellow. It looks like a light coming in from a room. And then all around, so the rest of it, so like below the veranda and either side, it's like a sort of twilighty, pale blues and purples kind of colour, and it kind of looks a lot dark. So your eye is drawn to the title of the book. That's like the main focus that you're drawn, and it's just the lettering. So you have 5 different figures sort of around the stairs. You have sort of to the left on the top of the veranda, you have what looks like more of an adult figure. She's got short black hair pulled back, a scarf that is pink and red tied around her neck, and she's wearing sort of like a white shirt and some sort of brown trousers. Her hand is resting on the veranda banister, and there is like sort of like white magic sort of swirling around it. You then have 4 teenage characters in sort of blazers and ties, like school uniform. There is one leaning to the right side of the book, so that stood on the veranda, and they are surrounded by this sort of like a blue water kind of going around their neck. In the centre, I presume we have our protagonist. She is standing, so the stairs kind of like cut down from left to right. She's standing sort of on that top spot in the centre underneath the title, and she has got it sort of looks a little bit like a flame, possibly like it could have sort of like bird wings in her hand. Then sat on the step to her left is a boy who is holding it's sort of like green crackly lightning between 2 hands, and then leaning up against the steps on the other side, we have a girl in a ponytail who looks slightly disinterested, who's got who's like holding her hand and almost like she's about to click her fingers, and it's got like pink sparkly stars around it, and there is a toucan near her. So the cover is intriguing when you start looking at it, and I do like that artwork, but it's not eye-catching. It doesn't really pull you fully in. I think it's a mixture of the colour palette, and that it's highlighting the title. Your eye goes to the title a lot more than it does the characters. I've also noticed the more you look at it, the more fun it is, but you might not look at it. You might just like glance past it. There is actually on top of the veranda, there is like a tiger tail in the bottom of a tiger, just sort of like moving behind the child that's on there. So it's really interesting. I am very intrigued by the story. As a piece of art, because I've seen it separately, and as like a picture, it looks great. But as like the book cover, it just doesn't have that kind of pull, which is a shame because I do think it looks really, really interesting. And in terms of like giving you a taste of what the book is, I think it does it really well because you're getting a glimpse of like the powers of these characters and kind of the individuality of these characters. And I think when you've read it, I think you will enjoy it more and feel it's a good representation. So yeah, it's just the strikingness of that one really. In 7th place, Artezans, The Forgotten Magic. The artist for this one is Todd Stanton. Now this one, I love the design. It's definitely very spooky looking, and there's definitely a creepiness about it. We have in the centre, back to back, we have a dark-haired boy and girl. The boy is wearing a red jumper. He's got pink flames on both his hands. The girl has a green cardigan and tartan skirt. She has a cat on her shoulder. She's holding a book in one hand and a glowing jar in the other. They are surrounded by trees. It's like there's a little hollow in this wood and they're sort of in the middle between these trees, and the branches are kind of going around them, so they look silhouetted in this circle. And it partly looks like tree branches, but they're hooked, so it also looks a little bit like hands, and it is dark inky blues and blacks, and then you've got purple behind them with the sky and stars, so it's a very dark cover. At the top you've got Artezans in really big letters in sort of like gold, and The Forgotten Magic underneath. I really like the font for Artezans, and the Z is extra large, and through the middle it's like got this line through it with a circle, so it looks like two puzzle pieces, and it makes me think of like doors diagonally closing in like a space, like a sort of like a space hatch or something. Above the title Artezans, you have these white ovals that are glowing that could be moons and stars, but definitely look like eyes. So it's very sinister. You've got these leering eyes over these children with these hands. So it draws you in a lot in that sense. It's very spooky. But because the colour palette is so dark, I think it could get lost. For me, I think I just needed something to pop a little bit more to kind of make it more striking for me. I think when you stop and you look at it and you study it, I really enjoy the design and how it all looks. But I think I'm just not a fan of a dark colour palette to make me want to pick up a book, basically. Number 6, we have The Pumpkin Princess and the Forever Knight. And the artist for this one is Matt Rockefeller. I just really like the art style for this one. The design, it's quite simple in terms of it is a picture. Like, it's not trying to do anything fancy with the font or with the framing of it. And they're just kind of letting this image and picture speak for itself. I think this is a really good decision for this book cover because the picture is really intriguing and you just go straight to the picture. And again, you are having the main character framed as this central point, so your eyes go to the protagonist, and also I think the probably other main character from this, which is the Pumpkin King. So in terms of the colour palette, you've got sort of like icy blues of the sky, sort of like bluey grey, purpley mist. You've got a silhouette of a spooky looking house in the background. There's a couple of tree silhouettes going to either side, outlining it. And then the main image is made up of sort of browns, and sort of the light kind of feels a little bit pinkish and orangish. So that's kind of the colours going there. So it is a cart with 2 horses. One horse is a lot taller and is it's a black horse with a dark mane, and then the other horse, it's more like a pony. It's brown with a white mane and tail, and the cart is wooden. It looks like it's carved wood. It's carved wood with it looks like a few harvesty things popping out the back. Standing up next to the driving seat of the cart is our protagonist, a girl. She is holding a lantern. She's wearing jeans and sort of a green cardigan. She's got black hair blowing in the wind, and next to her, which is the character that I find most fascinating, is the Pumpkin King. He is dressed highwayman style. He has got some nice riding boots. He's got a black cloak with a gold clasp, and his head is a pumpkin. He's got, his smile looks quite, like, it looks like it could be creepy or friendly. It just goes sort of in a wiggle across his face, and he's got glowing yellow eyes, and his pumpkin stalk is like a little quiff tuft. I really like the look of the Pumpkin King. He is definitely the one that catches my eye, and also the protagonist next to him, and you're like, what is their relationship? I want to know about their story. The title is in orange, which also adds a pop of colour that catches your eye. So I definitely like the artwork to it. I appreciate what it does, but it's not doing anything that I think is particularly clever or interesting. But again, it's that balance of, I do think the simplicity really works, and it makes you focus on the picture of the story. I do like Matt Rockefeller's art style. So book number 5 is Amari and the Despicable Wonders, and the artist for this is Brittany Jackson. I really love Brittany Jackson's art style. Most of the book is green. It goes from a dark sea green to a light grass, and then sort of like a glowing yellowy green, sort of more in the centre. We have Amari standing strong in the centre. She's got a shoulder length afro, purple t-shirt and jeans, and her left hand is in front of her, held out, and that is the source of the yellow glowing spirally greens that then kind of go off behind her, and the whole sort of thing spirals into the different shades. We have B.B. Alston's name at the bottom, and across the top we have Amari in giant silver letters above her head. The R of Amari, again, this is another one where I like the font for the title. The R is cracked. You get a sense of the story of Amari from seeing that. I find the writing particularly striking. To the right of Amari, we have a girl wearing glasses, and she's got dark loose plait unravelling, wearing a lilac jumper and jeans. To the left of the book, we have a girl with blonde hair in a pink top and denim skirt with her hand on her hip, and then next to her we have a boy in a red basketball vest, and he's got sort of short dreadlocks on the top of his head. What I really love about this cover is Brittany Jackson's characters. I think she somehow managed to capture the strength yet vulnerability in all of their faces. There's a certain softness to the illustrations on the UK edition as opposed to the US one, but you can see sort of the determination that this sort of like close-knit group sort of coming together. You can just kind of feel that from them. I really love how she draws people. So again, it's a simple design. It's not particularly doing anything exciting as a picture, but I just love her artwork. I think it is more striking than the Pumpkin Princess because it's just got a brighter background. Your eyes kind of pulled in by it, and it just pops a lot more on a shelf. Like, it really does draw the eye. And again, like, Amari is the main focus of this book, as she absolutely should be, and you are just quite intrigued and drawn to this character. So it's a combination of the strong green of the illustration of Amari and the title Amari that pulls you into this book. Book number 4 is Greenwild, The City Beyond the Sea. This artwork is done by Elisa Paganelli. And this is one where it's definitely the artwork that I find really, really intriguing in this one. I just think it's an absolutely beautiful picture. It's set underwater. We've got sort of a colour palette of blues and sea greens, and then you've got pops of pink and orange in that, with sort of all of the plant life kind of around the edges and the bottom. Greenwild is in the centre at the top. It's very large. The sort of plant forms on the G and the R and the W within Greenwild. So it kind of goes into like vine and leaf shapes that sort of at the end of the letters. Then at the centre we have a horse made of water, And the whoosh of the mane kind of goes around the title of Greenwild, then comes in to the horse, which is quite eye-catching. And then sort of like flicking onto the right side of the book is its tail. Directly underneath, and what draws your eye in this piece of art, is our protagonist, Daisy. Again, as it should be. She's in her sea green overall dungarees with sensible brown boots on, and her brown braid or plait of hair is sort of flying to the side in the same direction as the horse's tail. Behind her is a boy. I think he's a new character. They've both got their feet set in sort of like a preparation battle stance. And Daisy has a glowing orb in her hand. And by her feet is the lovely black and white cat. And either side is the plant life. We've got a mixture of like jungly vines and also sort of underwater coral plants. And that's where you've got the bright orange and the fuchsia pink. We've got teals and lime greens. And the lime greens are sort of parrots perched on these branches. I don't know if they're a special underwater parrot or what. But yeah, this one, it's the whole kind of image. It's just, there's a lot going on in the picture, but it's sort of like a beautiful piece of art. It is very eye-catching because it's got such really vibrant colours. So you've got sort of the palette, but then you've got other pops within there that draw your eye. And again, your eye is drawn to the protagonist in the centre, and you've got the big title as well. As I said, I do enjoy a title where it's got a little bit of quirkiness to it. So I like the vines that kind of come off this one. So that's one of the reasons why it's sort of like higher up in this list of book covers. So my third favourite cover is actually one that's kind of grown on me the more and more I've looked at it, but I've always thought it was quite striking. And this is the Whisperwicks. And the artwork for this is by Vivienne To. And she has actually done quite a lot of covers that I've also enjoyed the artwork for that I didn't really realise. We've got dark purpley blues. At the bottom, we've got the Whisperwicks in sort of bold writing. There is sort of a big border around the edge. So it's of like half rectangles, like the old snake game. So it does look like labyrinthy and like a maze. And within that, you've got sort of little illustrated, like a tall rectangular house, and a church and some trees. And then you've got these like half rectangle lines in them as well. So I like that because obviously it's the labyrinth of lost and found. So you've got that kind of idea and link to labyrinths. In the very centre, you have got two children. These are quite small. You can't see a lot of details. You can just tell there are two children there. One, I imagine, is Benjamin, and I think he's holding like a lantern. And that's the central glow that really catches your eye. And that is where the colour fades into a lighter purple. And you can see there are steps leading up to where he's standing. And then you've got really narrow sort of houses on either side of the children, and it's like an alleyway. And then on either side of those houses, you've got other alleyways. So it's kind of really giving this idea of this like quite claustrophobic like mazes. You've then got these imposing tree branches sort of like looming over the top, sort of like going from the sides up to the top of the book. From the top of these tall buildings that are framing the two children, you have these cathedral spires. And with the glow of the lantern, it kind of all looks like it's kind of going into a point, almost like it's like a beam from an alien ship, like sucking them up. So it really just kind of gives this impression of the narrowing of this labyrinth, and just like these two children like needing to literally run through this alleyway, almost like before it all closes in on them, like they've got to escape. So it really gives you that sense of danger in there. You've got Elisa running up the steps to join Benjamin, and there is a snake sort of at the foot of the steps and an eagle sort of directly above Benjamin's lantern. And then there are cards floating around them. With this, I really love the colour palette. The way you've kind of like got the darkness and the light, and that beam of light just really pops out, and it just makes it very striking. It just draws your eye in. You also get a really sense of the atmosphere around this, that it is slightly like you're feeling this kind of pressure that these children need to get out of there. but you also have this sense of like mystery with it as well, and it does feel very magical. So I really, really like this one. The US cover to this is very different. It's kind of gone for more of, there's still a glow in the middle, but it's got like wood trees kind of around it. The colour palette's a lot more like grey and brown and blue, and it looks a lot more kind of spooky. So I find that quite interesting. But yes, I really like the design of this one and the feeling that it gives you. My second favourite cover is Keedie, and that is by Kay Wilson. What is also really lovely about this that I didn't realise is it says in her bio that Kay Wilson is neurodivergent as well, and has ADHD. I haven't always enjoyed the artwork that Kay Wilson used on A Kind of Spark and the second one that's a sci-fi.
Show Us Who You Are.
Holograms. I've totally forgotten the name of the book. That wasn't my favourite. Again, it's very like, it's bold and it's striking, but it just wasn't my style. I have really enjoyed Like a Charm and the artwork she's done on that. Keedie, I absolutely love. Colour palette for Keedie really works for me. You've got a bright eggshell blue, you've got a deep gold butter yellow, and then you've got a bold purple. It's sort of like a doodle cartoon side profile of Keedie. The book kind of cuts off sort of like just the top of her head and sort of at the bottom of her shoulder blades. Her hair is in 3 segments. We've got blue, yellow, then blue, and the yellow part is pulled back. So like it's like the first part of her hair has like been pulled together at the back, and it's the rest of it is down. So that's the yellow bit, and it's pulled back by a purple sunflower clip. She's wearing purple headphones. She's got a purple school blazer, and the bag strap is purple, and it's got yellow sharks on it. And the word Keedie is in white, sort of like under her hair on her blazer. And then you have the profile face of Keedie. It's white with done all in a purple outline. She's got a slight smiley smirk, sort of looking back at you. Her lips are purple, and she's sort of looking back at you over her shoulder. And just, I love all the boldness of it. Really fits with Keedie. And you are just really pulled into that. It's the focal point is the eye. Like, you are just pulled into her facial expression. And I just love how this really just stylistic art style just gives such a perfect expression of Keedie. Like, there's not a lot of like detailing in the face, but you really get Keedie's character just from looking at it, and I just think it's wonderful. It's eye-catching, it really pulls you in, and I think it really gives you a great idea of who Keedie is, and that's why it really worked for me, and I just love it. So my favourite of all of these book covers is The Girl Who Kept the Castle. The artist for this is Dion MBD. I just love the design that Dion used for this. I just think it's so clever. It's so intriguing. You get such a sense of the magical with this. The colour palette is sort of dark blues, goldy stars and pinks. So at the bottom you have this shadow. You've got this very small silhouette of a person in a cloak sort of walking towards a castle, and it's their shadow that The Girl Who Kept the Castle, the writing, the words are within this shadow. You can still see this like path working up to the central point of this castle. You've got trees in sort of like pinky golden autumnal leaves with their branches in sort of darker, sort of the dark shadowy black. So you've got that sort of strange kind of like lightness to them, and also this, it's kind of like spooky feel to them as well. The castle is white with red roofs. There's lots of turrets. There's golden light from all the windows and doors. As you go up to the top of the castle, you realise that the castle forms the apron of the maid, which is the main character. So when you look at it one way, in the centre, you have the maid, the protagonist of our story, Faye, who has a pink cat tail and pink cat ears, holding a broom, holding a mop with a sort of a pink, the white moppy head looks pink, and she's got a cat wrapped around her shoulders, and it looks like she's standing in moonlight, and there is like a silhouette of a wizard behind her, and then you have the foot of the castle. But what I love so much about this is I love how the castle moulds into her dress. So you've got the maid straps, but you realise then they are actually turrets of the castle when you look closer. The wizard is this pale blue shadow sort of behind her. You can see the hat, you can see the profile and outline of the face, but there's no detail on it, and there's a cloak that kind of goes out from behind the maid to the edges of the book cover. But his cloak and his profile is all made of sort of like tree branches and stars, and it looks like the night sky. So he's got this like the night kind of aspect to him, and this mysterious thing. Behind both of them is it kind of starts off purple, then goes into like dark purple into blue, and it looks like the night sky. And it does look like behind the maid's head is this golden moon, and you actually realise it's a dragon. And the golden moon is its yellow eyes. So we've got two yellow eyes, one directly behind the maid's head and the other is to the left of the book, almost kind of cut off. Then you've got this smiley mouth that's at the foot of the castle / edge skirt of her dress. And you realise, yeah, it's actually a nose. We've got a paw coming on the right hand side of the book with some little claws. But you only realise that the more you look at it. So that's what I love about it. How, like, at first glance, you see the protagonist as the maid, you see the wizard shape, you see this castle. Then you realise there's all this more detail kind of around it. But it is striking because you are immediately drawn to the maid. And it's this combination of a maid that's sort of a cat with a wizard with a castle, and you're like, oh, interesting, what's happening in this? So it's a whole combination of the art style is beautiful, the design is incredible, and it's really eye-catching. So it's the whole package, which is why this one is my favourite cover. So please do let me know, do you agree with me? What is your cover ranking? Please let me know. Or maybe just give me which one sounds like your favourite one and your least favourite one. I just cannot wait to find out which one's going to win. I can't wait to find out which 5 we're going to be reading. Will I be needing to reread any? I don't know. We have to wait and see. But thank you so much for watching, for being excited with me. I really, really appreciate it. I do hope that you read some of these and they give you a lot of joy. Please share them with all your friends and family. I mean, there's a present giving time is around the corner, and what better thing to give than a book? Have you